Tonight on Cosmic Cantina, panic in the skies. Since we're starting to see an ever-increasing amount of UFO reports from official sources, including the recent encounter by an American Airlines pilot, we wanted to dive into more reports from people who fly for a living and the areas in which their sightings have taken place. So if you're an uncomfortable flyer, here's some more things to worry about while flying the freaky skies. Strap on in, folks. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golombeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight I am drinking kombucha. Turmeric kombucha.
The booch.
The booch. Watch out.
Wait, is there booze in that kombucha or just straight up bucha?
It's just bucha. I know it's a little lame, but it's where I'm at today.
Sometimes you gotta heal. I get it. I picked myself up a 6-pack of overpriced Coronas, so that's what I'm going on for right now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Everything's imported here, so it's pricey, very pricey, but worth it.
You couldn't get you can't get enough of that Rona, right? There's none in Australia, but you got to bring some in.
That's right. Sweet Rona.
Repping it. Well, party people, I think this guy, who apparently was not animated enough in the last podcast, is going to be very animated on this podcast. And he also found a beer that he loves. A new one I'm going to rep harder than I rep that old one, which I won't even name. It's called Strange Beast, and it's a kombucha, and I liked it. I wasn't jumping on the bandwagon. I was like, I'm not drinking kombucha with alcohol. It's kind of ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. But I found it. It was delicious. I drank it last night, unfortunately. I didn't wait till today. So today I'm having a cider. It's that same one I talked about weeks ago. It's meh. So next week, get ready. Strange Beast is my lady and my friend.
Okay.
All right.
Like
okay. Josh got called out on my social media saying that he's not animated enough in the videos. So I hope that if you're listening, you should watch because he's on fire tonight.
Woo!
Because
My shirt might come off. My pants is 50-50.
What?
My hair's already done.
No, keep it on. Keep it on. Whatever you do, keep it on.
I'm glad that I have, no one has expectations of what I need to do. That's great. I'm happy with that. The lower the expectations, the better for me. Awesome.
Exactly. All right, let's start this show. Everybody keep your clothes on. All right, so here's the thing. Has anybody, I hope everybody listening to this, and if you haven't, please go watch the video of the live, or it's not live, but it's definitely not stitched together footage, but it's the rover's video from the surface of Mars, and you can hear the sound of Mars. You can literally hear the wind blowing on the surface of Mars. It is so epic. I don't know why, but I'm so pumped about this. I watched the video at least 20 times, like a weirdo. But that's like crazy. I mean, we can actually hear what it sounds like on Mars.
Yeah, it sounds like Death Valley. It's great.
Okay, well, don't blow my... Yeah, it kind of sounds like Death Valley.
No, I was giving you shit. I listened to it like 3 or 4 times in a row, and my kids were not impressed at all. But I feel the same way. I think it was a magical moment when it landed. I almost cried when it landed, even though secretly I was like, oh, we have hidden tech that can take us there in 2 seconds, but let's all get excited for Elon Musk and
Right.
Mars. I still almost cried, though. It was a really emotional moment for humanity.
Yeah, but I'm just talking like the video that just came out is awesome. Not just the landing, but the actual footage of Mars is really cool. I'm sure that
Totally.
the secret space program, they're like, okay, everybody, make sure you hide everything because they're doing an Earth test where they're trying to prove this is the first video from Mars. I'm sure that was what happened, but it was still cool. So
It was.
That happened February 19th, but February 21st, something else happened. And I'm sure if you're in this space and you watch the news or you read the news, you know that an American Airlines flight, the pilots reported seeing a UFO on February 21st, a couple days after the Mars landing. I don't know. Wildly speculating some correlation, but it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so here we go. I took this article. I mean, there's tons of articles on this, but if you're not familiar with it, I took this one from Forbes. Of course, we will post this article. You can check it out. FAA can't explain pilot's UFO sighting last weekend over New Mexico. All right, this is taken from the recording. Do you have any targets up there? We just had something go right over the top of us, said the pilot at 1:19 p.m. Central Time on Sunday. I hate to say this, but it looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast over the top of us. This audio recording was published by a blogger called Steve Douglas. The blog is Deep Black Horizon. He happened to intercept the transmission accidentally as he was trying to pick up another aircraft with a radio scanner. It was pure coincidence, he says. A little bit more about this flight. The flight, when they reported seeing the UFO, they happened to be over Clayton, New Mexico. The flight was en route from Cincinnati to Phoenix, crossed over Clayton. As soon as they crossed over Clayton, all of a sudden they see this cylindrical UFO. Nobody knows where it came from. The FBI is aware. They're involved. They're investigating it. In this article, it just kind of brought up just to say, hey, on February 24th, 2018, a similar incident occurred over the Sonora Desert where two pilots flying different aircrafts reported seeing a UFO. So, same area, which is strange, right? But, hold on.
Holy shit.
Hold on. Wow. So I was looking into Clayton, New Mexico, because I haven't heard of it, and it's an old western town. I think it was established in like 1821 or something, but it's apparently the most haunted place in New Mexico. I mean, I know that doesn't have anything to do with UFOs, but I know that we talk a lot about portals on this show.
Or does it?
It's all connected.
Sorry. It's making me all excited.
Wow.
Anyway, it doesn't really say this article. Again, I'll post this article. It doesn't really say a whole lot, but there is a lot of ghost stories there, a lot of old Western tales and shootouts and all that kind of thing. But for some reason, this area seems to be the most haunted in New Mexico, which I found just interesting because maybe there's some correlation between the fact that a UFO was seen 3 years ago, same area. This happened February 21st over Clayton, New Mexico, and it's the most haunted place in America. And I know it's not March, but if you listen to my last podcast, I said that specifically March and July are a hot spot for UFO sightings and for crash landings. I don't know why. It's recorded in lots of material, but I'm saying I know it's not March, but it's pretty close. Just going to point that out.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Can I ask a quick question? What do you guys think the FBI does when they research a UFO case? The FBI's on it. What does that involve?
Look,
them calling the pilot and going, "What'd you see? We saw a cigar-shaped UFO. Cool. Case closed." Like, what the fuck are they supposed to do?
Done. I don't know if you've seen the X-Files, but I'm pretty sure that's basically what happens.
They send in a believer and a skeptic, and they work it out together, and the sexual chemistry between the two of them, but we never see him kiss until like
sexual chemistry. Yeah, you've got to have it. It's part of the deal.
Except it's two dudes, and one of them's really into drinking coffee and eats too many donuts.
Perfect.
Yep.
That
seems about right.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know what they do.
What do they do?
I guess they just interview people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like they have any evidence, like physical evidence to go on.
But
maybe they check radar.
I don't know.
Yeah, radar. Maybe they check. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they probably do like a case study, like MUFON's been doing for years, right? They've been building a case, and maybe that's the idea of Men in Black is the FBI just shows up and asks a bunch of questions, but now it's like legit and it's not secret. They're just like, hey, don't you know we have a task force? We're asking about UFOs now or UAPs. It's totally cool.
Right, right.
I mean, they must
Just
think
optics.
it
They don't really care.
possibly poses some sort of threat, right? If they're investigating. Otherwise, why would they give a shit?
Oh, yeah. If it flew right above them, that's probably their angle. It's probably less about if it's a UFO. They're trying to figure out what it could be besides a UFO. Was it a stray missile? The guy did describe it as a missile. I mean, that's horrifying to know if there's a missile like right above the plane. Jesus. It's not a missile. It's a UFO. The missile would have hit him if it was attracted to like metal, you know?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll sign it. It's a good question. I don't know what they do. What do they do? 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 What do they do?
Right.
Yeah. And the number of UFO cases that have popped up that I've researched recently, just in the news as well, they all seem to describe that same metallic cigar shape. It's like just a fuselage with no wings kind of thing.
It's like a big Tic Tac.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And no,
It's
that
the
is-
most
that is-
boring UFO. Just to be clear, like it's the least exciting UFO to see. You know, if I had to make a list,
True.
cigar shaped is like fourth.
Well, because
Right.
it's always slow moving. You know, like the triangle shaped ones seem to move very fast, or there's like those massive ships that people are like,
yeah.
it was like a football field. Those
I need to see
seem
that
to be
in
in
my
one
life.
area and then they disappear and go to another area type thing,
Yeah.
like warp speed really fast. But the cigar shapes are just floating in the air, and it's almost like a cargo ship or something. It's strange.
You might be onto something there.
But one more thing, because I know Matt is chomping at the bit because he's got a lot of pilot stories.
I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm mildly excited. And
I'm
I shouldn't
scared.
be.
I'm vibrating. Sorry. Go on.
I don't get it. Okay, so this is just a little, like, you know, Melissa side note, weird stuff I like to drop in there, and then it might not make any sense. But a Scientific American article came out literally the same day that they reported that the American Airlines pilot saw a UFO. And the title is, Until Recently, People Accepted the Fact of Aliens in the Solar System. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. And basically, this whole article breaks down that for centuries, they bring up all these examples of even like the 1400s of people talking about how there was like the aliens and different beings, and they lived on other planets and other dimensions. Like this is like a thing that apparently humans have been talking about for quite some time until 1960. 1960, everybody was like, nope, it's not true. Which is interesting because
Really?
that's when we started to go to space, right? Like in 1965, we sent a rover, I believe, to the moon, if I remember correctly. So we were actually leaving Earth to go investigate. And at this point in time, for some reason, this article points out, again, I'll post this article and you can read it for yourself, that for some reason, then there was this skepticism that people that believed in aliens were crazy. But up until that point, people really did kind of believe that there was something out there. And this article points out that at this very moment in time, we're at a golden age where we're back to kind of accepting that there might be something else. Interesting.
Huh.
note. And
I wonder
just another thing too. I mean, if we're in this golden age of maybe they're real type of thing, is this another reason for the UFOs to kind of show themselves? I mean, there's always this, we talk about this a lot in our podcast. What's the point of having all these sightings? Why are they here? What do they want? Are they trying to contact us? Are they trying to show us that they're here? Maybe this article, it's timing, publishing, literally as the American Airlines pilot articles were coming out, saying that, this is the golden age. This is the age where we're really saying, hey, I think it's real, that they're showing themselves more. I don't know. Just a thought.
I think that's directly related to Roswell and then the disinformation campaign that we know is real, that they purposely tried to delegitimize, I said that right, the UFOs and made people think they're crazy if they saw them. Probably by the 60s that took full effect and people were just denying it because they were conditioned that way by these secret disinformation programs. And now, hopefully, it looks like we're slowly coming out of it, which is wonderful. Do I think the aliens are trying to make contact? I don't know. I don't know. I think they're obviously, I don't know. Like, what did Elon Musk say the other day? It was kind of funny. He's like, if they are, they sure are really shy about it, which is true.
Yeah.
But we get so many sightings. So I think the answer is yes, but it's not as simple as them. Like, we all think they're going to land. It's not like that. Like, we got to meet them in the middle, and they're waiting for us from a consciousness standpoint. But
Well, that's what I mean, but they're showing themselves. It's like, I don't know, Josh, I don't know if this was you and I talking about this today, but the fact that like the UFO sightings have increased immensely in 2020, and then of course people's excuses were because they were home because of COVID.
Right.
But even in 2021, there's only been 2 months, and there's tons of sightings.
yeah, we're heading towards something. It feels like
We're heading
yeah.
towards something. Yeah, agreed.
I'm excited.
Come on, get more
You're
animated.
excited.
Get more animated.
Jump up and down.
Go on, do something. Jump from
yeah,
monkey.
Dance, monkey. we have this idea of, like you were saying, like, why don't they come down and meet us? You know, they're super shy about it or whatever. But I think we're looking at the idea of contact with aliens from a very human perspective too. Like, what if another alien race or whatever, that's not even in their vocabulary, like meeting people. Like maybe they're just like a ant, like hive quality where they just do their thing and they don't care what other species are around or what they're doing. They're just doing their thing. They've got no desire to meet anyone or shake hands or, you know, give reach arounds or whatever. It's just all very mechanical, robotic.
I think that's true. I think that could definitely be true for certain species. I think there are definitely species that are concerned with our development, and I think the evidence shows that. But I'm not disproving what you're saying, because I think what you're saying is also true, because there seems to be cases like that where they don't really give a fuck. They're not really trying to hurt us, but they're not really trying to help us. They're just hanging out.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think we keep putting our own human experience onto other civilizations when they could be operating on a completely different level than we are.
Yeah.
And
I
their
agree.
goals might be completely different from what we would think their goals might be. I don't know. Anyway, just something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that it's just increasing the amount of sightings. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to be a human thing, but I don't know what it is. I mean, I could speculate because I'm really good at it. But we'll leave it there.
Jump on
we'll
in.
leave it there. I'll drop it.
Okay.
Drop it like it's hot.
Okay.
All right, Matt. So Matt got obsessed with pilots reporting
did.
UFOs or UAPs.
I certainly did. Strap in, folks.
Or strap on. Yeah.
Strap on in.
Yeah. It is Monday night in the Golombesky house.
Oh, hey. Who wears a strap on? I'll leave that up in your own head.
Does
You guys
your wife listen to this podcast?
God,
I hope to
not.
God no. I don't think she's listened to one podcast. And once in a while I bring it up to make her feel guilty, but then I really don't want her to listen. So
Yeah, at the same time, that probably wouldn't go well. Yeah.
don't.
Get it?
I'm regretting the moment my son listens and spreads it to his friends at school, and then I become that dad. You know, you're Hunter's
The dad,
wingman.
Yep.
the dad with the strap on. Yeah, that would be.
Oh, God.
That's gonna be weird.
Oh,
Dude.
dude,
Yeah.
I'm the life of the party. Whatever, they love me.
So you think? All
In
right,
my own head.
let's go to the cockpit.
Okay.
All right, take us to the
Let's
Mile
go
High
straight
Club,
to the
Matt.
cockpit, guys. Here we go. All right. So I got interested in pilot encounters, obviously with UAPs, UFOs, and the other thing we didn't mention, I guess, too, is it seems like pilots seem to be, coming out of that stigma a little bit and reporting on this a little bit more, which is awesome as well. It used to be you'd hear stories about, well, pilots see this shit all the time, but it's an automatic death, killer to their career as soon as they try to bring this up,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's cool that a bunch of pilots are now coming out. So anyway, I wanted to dig into a few really interesting stories about shit that can go very wrong while encountering UFOs in the sky. So here's a few stories from pilots who had brushes with the phenomena and found out that some of them are not so lucky afterwards.
Oh.
So we're going to head to Russia. So there was this recent CIA release document. I think it was part of the recent drop, maybe, that happened with the Black Vault.
Okay.
And it was an article written by some place that I accidentally closed down, but I will definitely post in the show links. I apologize to whoever wrote this article that I didn't write down the name of it, but I will refer to it later. So in this document, they basically talk about this. It was two Russian pilots who encountered a UFO and seemed to be attacked by it in some way. And then one of them died and the other got this, debilitating illness afterwards. So the document itself is from 1989, but the incident is just reference from, I think it was some head guy, some, major guy in the Russian Air Force or whatever who was talking about this. So it didn't really actually give a date of this event. But here we go. So the Soviet aircraft reported seeing a large flying disc in their vicinity, and it had 5 beams of light emanating from it. 3 of them were directed towards the ground, 2 were projected upwards. So it seemed to be like scanning something. I don't know. When it was first sighted. So
Wait, hold on. Wait, so this was in Russia? This
is in Russia.
Happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it say what part of Russia?
it does, and I didn't write that down either because it was like just a series of alphabet. I wasn't even going to attempt to pronounce it.
What? We should have given it. We should have given it to Josh.
Yes, we should have.
Yeah, let me butcher that next time.
Okay, sorry.
But I will. I will post
the
the original document so you can check this out for yourself too.
Okay.
So the ground controller instructed one of these pilots to alter its course and approach the object, at which point the disc flew to the same level and aimed one of its beams toward the cockpit as it approached the Soviet plane. And apparently just lit up the cockpit, illuminated the whole cockpit. The pilot's log stated, at this time the co-pilot was at the controls. He observed the maneuver that this object had just carried out and was able to raise his hand to shield himself from the unbearable light. The aircraft commander was resting in the adjoining seat, and a bright ray of light projected a spot with a diameter of 20 centimeters and it passed across his body. Both pilots felt the heat from it.
Yeah, they did.
So the fucking saucy heat from that saucer. So the aircraft commander and his co-pilot both became. This is an odd word to use here. Maybe it's the translation from Russian, but it says the aircraft commander and his co-pilot both became invalids shortly after this incident. So I guess that means they were paralyzed. Maybe.
Oh.
Okay.
After this, not like forever, but after being shot with this thing, they couldn't move.
From the waist down?
No, just their whole body, I guess.
Oh.
It could not move at all. So it just froze them in place for a little while. It didn't sound like it was a permanent thing.
That's
So
scary.
the co-pilot was, the co-pilot after this incident, and I guess it took off after that, but the co-pilot after this incident was forced to leave his job due to a sudden deterioration in his health, including the onset of sudden prolonged periods of loss of consciousness. So he just passed out all the time. The aircraft commander died within a few months. The cause of death was listed as cancer and injury to the organism, I guess his body, as a result of radiation from an unidentified flying object. That was listed on his death certificate.
Wow.
And it was the contributing factor, the official medical record. So that was pretty crazy. So both of those guys obviously got hit by radioactive beams of some kind. We've heard that before. Obviously, I talked about that Brazilian case where the little island was being attacked.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they were being shot by radioactive beams of some kind. So then that got me onto another case that happened in Kentucky. And this was an Air National Guard pilot. His name was Captain Mantell Jr. Mantell.
Yeah. Sounds like a man's man.
Badass is a man's name, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a man's man, baby.
Tell me, Mantell. So, on an overcast afternoon, and this is January. It's not June or July or March?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. And this was
whatever.
1948.
Your dates are wrong.
I feel like we're going to have to apologize to Melissa every time an event happens not in March.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, this is speculation.
You're lying.
I guess that
You're
means
lying.
it's a hoax.
You're lying to me. That's what's happening. Okay.
All
go
right,
on,
so
sorry.
this was a 25-year-old Kentucky Air National Guard pilot, Thomas F. Mantell Jr., and he became the first publicly documented casualty of a hostile act of aggression by an extraterrestrial vehicle flying over Fort Knox, Kentucky, according to some UFO investigators. So this wasn't our Space Brothers, guys.
Ooh.
So he was in pursuit of what was described as a metallic object of tremendous size. And this guy was a World War II vet, decorated pilot, and he was flying a F-51 Mustang. But this thing was apparently flung to the ground at like huge, crazy velocity from a height of 30,000 feet. And it was in such an unnatural way that at least one baffled crash investigator decades later made the following statement to investigators. to UFO investigators. He said the damage pattern was not consistent with an aircraft of this type crashing into the ground. And this guy was a captain in the U.S. Army Air Corps. So adding to the mystery and weirdness of this event was the fact that Mantell's body had supposedly been whisked away before investigators reached the crash scene. So there was no body
What?
in the ship
What do
at
you
all.
mean?
That's weird.
What do you mean it was whisked away?
Well, that's their initial thought of what happened. So nonetheless, the investigators were informed by a few equally puzzled officials that the site that nowhere on Mantell, so there was no blood on the scene either. So in the cockpit, where you'd expect to find like a mushed body, there was
Right.
no blood, there was no tissue, there was no nothing. No trace of him whatsoever.
He just disappeared.
So he just disappeared, yeah.
Ooh.
So this was the official story from military investigations that they released. And this was, remember, what did I say, 1948. So this was not long after this event happened. It was when the official Air Force actually was created in the US, apparently. So this was their official report. They said Mantell had lost control of his fighter as a result of climbing too high without an oxygen mask. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, and then what happens is when you don't get enough oxygen, you just disappear. You know, you just go
Right.
into another dimension of existence. Totally.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then they said Mantell had been mistaken in his visual descriptions of this large metallic object, and in fact had been chasing the planet Venus, which is asserted to have been visible on this hazy January day.
You mean
Oh, I haven't heard
you mean
that one in a
swamp
while.
gas. You mean
yeah,
swamp
usually it's
gas.
swamp gas or something. The
Right.
Venus excuse I haven't heard in a while. That's interesting. That was an old-timey excuse.
Yeah. And this
No,
was
but
during
actually,
the day, by the way.
Actually, I've
on a
heard
hazy
that.
day.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
really?
they bring up Venus all the time, actually. It's
Yeah.
like a thing. I mean, is Venus really the brightest star in the sky? I mean,
The morning star.
I
in
know
the
it's a
morning
bright
is.
star. I mean, but not.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not
there's
like
other.
you wouldn't mistake it for an aircraft.
Right.
That's just crazy.
I just never understood that. But
And why would
okay.
you chase a star? Like, that's fucking stupid.
Right.
So anyway, this theory was debunked by astronomers who said there's no way this guy saw Venus, let alone mistaking a dot of light in the sky for a metallic craft that he was able to pursue. So the Air Force, which was, like I said, created not long after this event occurred, then tried to claim, actually, he was chasing some experimental balloon that they were working on that was top secret, and that's why they had to lie about the Venus thing.
a top secret
Lie
balloon?
within a lie.
A balloon.
Yep.
Wait, a balloon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Top secret balloon.
So an aeroplane flying at, I don't know what speed, or was it 1940, late 40s airplanes fly at, I don't know, but was able to pursue a balloon without passing it, apparently. Anyway, so one of America's foremost UFO investigators, Josh, you might remember this guy's name, Leonard Stringfield.
Oh, my boy Leonard.
Your boy, Lenny.
I didn't know, but my recent boy. Yeah.
So he thoroughly invested this Mantell case, and he came up with the following little tidbit that some postulate supports this theory. Okay, so this UFO theory. So Stringfield was able to get in contact with Mantell's wingman at the time, who witnessed the event, who was flying not far off where Mantell was. And he stated that Mantell pursued the UFO because he was the only pilot with an adequate oxygen mask. So he was told to go after this thing because he was the only guy with an oxygen mask, apparently. And that was one thing that the military had said, well, he just lost consciousness and hallucinated because he didn't have oxygen. Right? So he was the only pilot who did have a mask, so that was why he was sent.
Nice.
And this wingman also related that he saw so he witnessed the incident. He saw a burst of what appeared to be tracer fire.
Yep.
I guess that's fired from the UFO, which hit Mantell's plane and caused it to. He said it disintegrated in the air, which is crazy.
Wait,
So
his,
that's-
what?
Wait, I thought it crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they're saying. He said what the explanation was when they found this thing on the ground, it looked like it had hit so hard at such violent velocity that it just was in fucking pieces, shattered all over the ground. It wasn't like a natural airplane crash from 30,000 feet. But what this guy was saying was this thing was like shot to pieces and then fell to the ground. He says then, furthermore, a captain from the UAS reserve who claims he took part in the investigation of that incident including the location and inspection of the crashed airplane. And he supports the old theory that this spaceship removed Mantell from his ship and then allowed the ship to crash. So somehow they sucked him out of the ship and then the ship crashed. So his body wasn't taken away after the crash, but before somehow. And he says the body was never found.
Well, it was never found.
crazy
So he was never found. He was never found.
He was never found. Yeah.
Wow.
And then that got me onto a bit of a classic case, and you guys have probably heard about this. It's an absolute fucking Aussie classic, this one. Frederick Valentich.
Wait, can I just say, all of you people
Yes.
on that American Airlines flight over New Mexico, you were lucky. All right, go on.
Oh, yeah. It could have gone much worse.
It was just a cigar-shaped one, and those don't do
Yeah.
anything. You were fine. You were good.
Right. So far, these cases have been, military encounters. So there could be a perceived threat from these crafts, from these UFOs, I guess. Mm-hmm. But then this Frederick Valentich case, classic, Aussie fucking classic. He wasn't in the military. He wasn't a military plane. He was actually a young fella who was getting his flying license. He was, I think they said he was 150 hours in, and he was doing a course, a solo flight, where he had to continually check into the radio control tower. So have you guys heard this one? The Valentich case?
I don't think so.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. It's Australian, so it doesn't really matter to us Americans.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I
it's
get
like
it.
it's like
I
that
understand.
place down under, like whatever.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It doesn't even really exist because it's flat Earth,
Yeah, unless you're a Hemsworth's brother, like no one cares. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Right.
the Hemsworths.
That's where they're from. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, this one, this one's kind of a classic. I say that because, it's like the Black Eyed Kids story where like every other podcast or whatever who's in this field has done this story at some point before. So I'm going to do it now, but I'll keep it brief because a lot of people probably heard it already. So here we go. I'll run through it just briefly. It's pretty cool though. It's pretty creepy.
Okay.
So in October of 1978, again, not fucking March or July. I'm sorry.
What? Your data's wrong.
This is incorrect. So he's a pilot in training, and he's working on getting his commercial pilot's license. He's already logged over 150 hours of flying time. So he's not just starting out. He knows what he's doing, somewhat. And he's doing this class for instrument rating, which basically means he has to keep in regular contact with ground control. So he takes off from the southern coast of Australia and begins heading to a place called King Island, which is down sort of south of Australia as well. And he starts flying over this stretch of water. It's called the Bass Strait, and it's between the bottom part of the main island of Australia and Tasmania, the small little island at the south that looks like a vagina. Anyway, so we'll go straight past that. Yeah, a vagina.
I swear to God, every episode you guys have to say that word.
We're changing it up. We're equal opportunity. We've been doing dick jokes. Now we're doing vagina jokes.
We need vagina jokes. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Hashtag.
Anyway,
Yeah.
look up map of Tassie vagina. No, don't do that. Anyway, so he's flying across this body of water, right? So for the first 45 minutes or so, everything's going smooth. He makes routine calls to ground control. And this is like early evening, so 6, 7 o'clock. It's beautiful weather. It's clear. It's just a really nice flight. And suddenly, out of nowhere, Valentich's plane is buzzed by something metallic and fast. It just zooms over the top of him. How do we know this? Is because Valentich basically proceeds to narrate this whole encounter with ground control, and he's like on the radio constantly, like telling these people what's going on. So this thing zooms overhead and then shoots out of view. It's gone, like crazy speeds. So Valentich calls us into ground control and is asking, is there any other aircraft in this facility? Like, what the hell did I just see? Ground control is super confused. They have no idea what he's talking about. They say, like, no one else is in that space. It's crazy. What are you looking at? So he describes this thing moving like way too fast to be able to be like natural. Like he said, it's doing these crazy maneuvers. It's just zipping back and forth. And this is everything. I think they recorded this too, and it's really hard to find the recording, but there's transcripts of it, I guess, which people attribute to this thing being covered up too, actually. So anyway, all he was able to make out initially was these 4 lights in a rectangular shape at the bottom of this long metallic craft. So that's basically, again, like he doesn't say the cigar shape, but a long metallic craft, maybe with a rectangular light pattern. Yeah, let's say cigar.
Yeah, it goes with our theme.
This is part of the transcripts. He says to ground control, it seems to me that he's playing some sort of game. He's flying over me 2-3 times at a time, speeds I could not identify. So this is what he's saying to ground control. So then Valentich begins circling and trying to figure out what to do. Like he does what they call orbiting. So he's just going in circles, and this thing sticks with him in this circle and basically stays next to him and does the circle with him, just kind of watching it. Which is really weird. Like,
really weird.
So he's like in
That'd
this
be
circular
horrifying,
pattern,
though.
like trying to work out what the fuck to do. Yeah, he starts like panicking, obviously now, like what the fuck is happening? So then he decides, fuck it, I'm just going to keep heading to King Island and we'll work it out from there. So he breaks out of the orbit and then heads straight for this destination of King Island. So as he does this and sets this new course, this thing takes off again and it's just gone, leaves him alone for a solid 45 seconds to a minute. And then it returns once again and then begins to dance around him in the sky again, like zipping back and forth all the way around him. And he starts describing what this happened again. So then he reports seeing a 5th light open up. And I don't know if he's saying it's directed at him or what. Like I said, it's really hard to find the transcript of this, but I'm just sort of putting this together from other articles. He sees this 5th light open up, and then his engine begins to cough and splutter, and he starts losing control of the plane.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no.
So ground control at this point are baffled. All they can do is try and get information from Valentich, and they ask him again, what kind of aircraft are you seeing? So Valentich, his radio crackles and buzz, like the whole time when he's talking to him, when he starts seeing this thing, the radio is getting harder and harder to hear because there's crackling and buzzing and static going on.
Yeah.
So it cracks and buzzes again, and this is his last recorded words of this.
Uh-oh.
So it didn't turn out well for this guy. It says, that strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It's hovering, and it's not an aircraft. So the moment Frederick Valentich finishes talking, he finishes a sentence, he's like cut off all of a sudden, and he apparently just disappears from the ground control's radar. His plane is just like, the blip is gone. And they don't understand it because they can continue hearing his radio and what's happening inside the plane, which means he's holding down the button the whole time. So he hasn't crashed, but he's disappeared from radar.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Whoa, that's creepy.
Yeah.
So
What did they hear? What did they hear?
So they
So did
continue
they-
hearing this buzzing noise. Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just jumping ahead. Did they find his plane? Like,
We'll get there in a second. So,
Okay.
yeah. So they keep hearing this noise, the static and the buzzing. So they know he hasn't crashed into the water yet. But they said underneath the buzzing and the crackles and the pops of the radio, there's this weird, almost metallic clanging sound, like this grinding of metal in the background.
oh God, do you
And
think
then-
it was like sucking up his ship?
I don't know. That's what
Or
it's
his
like
plane?
crushing a soda can. You know, it's like sound of like something's. You know, I don't know. But so anyway, then the radio suddenly goes silent. Valentich and his plane are never seen again. So apparently, I've read different reports that they may have found bits and pieces of it, but nothing's ever solid about that. Nothing's ever like validated that they actually did find pieces of it, as far as I can see. Just reports of like finding bits and pieces here and there. There's a bunch more to this story. Apparently there were witnesses who saw some of this incident as well. But that's basically the story. I don't want to go into it any further. There's so much stuff about this incident, and it's pretty cool, like I said. But basically what happened is they never found him again after this. But this whole incident was recorded over radio. which is amazing.
Great. I really want to know what that metallic crunching noise was.
Right. Yeah. And so apparently there's a number of UFO researchers who have this recording. And it is pretty interesting, but for whatever reason they won't release it. I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe there's a told not to. Don't talk about this anymore. Which then brings me to my final story. We go to Mexico City, and this pilot fared a little better up in the air, but there's just an interesting end to this, and I think it speaks to the cover-up a little bit of some of this stuff. So this is about Carlos Antonio del Sol Santos Montiel. That's a heck of a name.
Wow, good job.
This guy was 23, and he was flying his airplane from Mexico City, and about 15,000 feet. He's passing over Lake. Here we go, Lake Teles-Quitengo.
Ooh, Josh,
All right.
Go ahead, you say it.
Lake Titicaca.
Nope.
No?
Yeah. So as he was passing over this lake, he starts feeling this vibration in the plane. And then he said he was suddenly flanked on both sides by 10 to 12 foot, like 3 meters in diameter discs that had a dome on top of them. So they popped up on both sides of him all of a sudden. He was like, holy shit. And then a third disc popped up in front of him and was keeping pace with him the whole time, and then sort of dipped below his airplane. So then he suddenly feels a jolt in the aircraft, like he'd collided with something.
Yeah.
And then he started like trying to put on the landing gear to be able to land, because he was like pretty close to where the landing pad was, I guess. Mm-hmm. But nothing was working in the airplane, and he felt as if he was being pulled or lifted by these things, like it was like it took control of the airplane from him. So then he called ground control to let him know what was going on, and sure enough, ground control saw these objects floating around his plane. And they also noted that these things seemed to be making these crazy maneuvers. Like, these weren't airplanes. They were like doing these sudden jolts from left to right and zipping all around the place. Again, classic UFO. So these things, that's basically all that happened to him in the air. These things kind of left him alone as he came into land. But they just shot off at tremendous speed. He didn't see him ever again after that. What's crazy is like the ground control also backed this up. They said, yeah, we saw these things around your airplane. This kind of got out, and after the incident, he was asked to do an interview by a local reporter about it. And so he'd agreed to meet this reporter at some place in Mexico City. And he was driving along kind of a rural area road. He was the only one on the road. And apparently, as he was driving, he was approached by several black vehicles that basically, like these UFOs, surrounded his car and sort of ran him off the road. So he stops his car, and this black car is in front of him, basically stopped suddenly, causing him to stop. And he says these two big, tall guys, and he said they were well-built, muscular men wearing these black suits. They had this ruddy, yellowish skin, jet black hair that looked odd, and zero body hair. Basically, your classic Men in Black, right? So they come and approach his car, these two guys. One stands at the front. The other one comes to his window and suddenly launches his head through the open window. He didn't smash that'd be funny. Smash! But no, he just like sticks his head through the window, and he said this guy was like super menacing and aggressive as he came through the window. And this guy said to him in this really sort of cold, mechanical, he said almost robotic voice, if you value your life and that of your family, do not say anything else. And they backed up, they got back into their cars, and they drove away. And so he said at this point he was like really shaken, and he basically turned his car around and went home and decided not to do the interview. And I guess he didn't do any other interviews after that until much later on in life when he finally told this story. But
Yeah, of course.
Men in Black, shutting her down.
But that's the first time that I feel like I've ever heard that ground control has ever picked up a UFO. I mean, just besides the stories that you were just explaining, usually it's no, we don't see it. It's not on radar. We can't pick it up. We see you, but we can't see it. This is the first time I'm hearing that they actually picked up on those UFOs, UAPs.
Yeah. Yeah, and they actually like backed him up on it too. And they, commented on his like strong character, and he wasn't like a maniac or whatever. This guy was like, these guys backed him up and said, yeah, no, this guy's legit. He's not like a complete lunatic or a liar. He's a decent human being. So yeah.
I wonder how he got out of it and the other ones didn't, though. I mean, obviously the first one was a military plane, but the second guy...
Yeah, he didn't make it. Well, this guy also was pretty close to the landing zone, right? So the other guy was in the middle of nowhere. But this guy was coming into land pretty close to, at least. So I guess maybe they didn't want more than one person seeing him at a time. I don't know. Speculating there wildly.
Why not?
Ha ha! I passed it on.
Wowzers. Why are there no women in black? How come the men in black haven't stepped into the Me Too movement? Wait, that's the wrong movement for that. How come they just haven't
Caught up the rest of society.
Why is it always jacked dudes? Like, why can't it be like a jacked woman? Like, an MMA fighter, like
Sexist
huge,
aliens.
fake boobs, but like super tough, and be like, if you value your life, you're not going to say a word.
I think I've seen that video on Pornhub. It was weird.
You and I travel in the same spaces, O'Connor.
Yeah.
Women in
My
black.
search history, let me tell you. Anyway. Women in black. Getting shit
See, you
done.
know what? Now that we said it, it's going to start happening. People are going to start reporting stories where like really tough women show up at their door, and they're wearing those like suits, those women's suits with like a little bow tie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, pantsuit.
A handsome pantsuit. Yeah.
Pantsuits coming back, man.
Nice.
It's going to be cool.
Like it.
So, Josh, you dropped down from the sky and you landed back in New Mexico because you just got obsessed that there has to be some weird shit happen in New Mexico. And that's why this UFO situation happened there.
Yep. When I heard about this UFO sighting, I decided to dry hump New Mexico because there's a lot going on down there in that awesome state that is rich in UFO lore. Roswell is my favorite place that I've never been to. It's on my bucket list while I live in Colorado.
You've never been? You've
No,
never
I need
been
to
in
go.
Roswell?
I want to go to
I haven't either.
that UFO
I have
shaped
not either.
McDonald's, and I hate McDonald's, but I'd love just to go. Yeah, that's like it's on
Hey,
my
guys.
list for real.
Road trip.
Road trip.
Oh,
Road trip.
yeah, dude. We got to record a pod down in Roswell. That's a great idea. Fun fact,
Yeah.
guys. Here's a fun fact for you UFO nerds out there. Edgar Mitchell, astronaut, God rest his soul, was a teenager in Roswell during the Roswell incident. That's a little fun fact for you out
Really?
there. I think I said
didn't
it once.
even know that.
Yeah,
I didn't
he
even
was.
know that. Wow.
He was there. That's part of the reason why he was such a believer, because he remembers the hubbub. So, first of all, New Mexico is the fifth. Well, is a state of all the states that have UFO reports, and lots of them. New Mexico is number 5, which I thought was interesting. I went on the National UFO Reporting Center that is run by Mr. Peter Davenport, who's a national treasure. I love that guy. And the New Mexico section, I did a lot of research on New Mexico and UFO sightings. I went really deep. It was like 2 a.m, and I was like half the time I was looking up missing 411 stuff, which I'll get to in a second, why that's related. But
Would you say you went balls deep?
Oh,
Oh, equal opportunity. Step
everything was
off,
fitting in.
bees.
Here we go.
So
We've covered all bases now. We're good.
So we heard a cigar-shaped object over this plane. I looked up how many cigar-shaped sightings have there been in New Mexico. Apparently since like the 40s, there's been 39 sightings. Some recently, not over airplanes, but there's been at least 39. There's been 116 triangle sightings, which are interesting. Some are very alien, some are very mechanical. And as we've discussed before, if you see something with ridges and it looks mechanical, most likely that's ours and not theirs. And there was only 10 saucer and 9 dished, which are kind of the same thing to me. So there's only 19 saucer shaped going on in New Mexico. So what does that say about New Mexico to me? It feels like most of the sightings happening there are ours. That's what it feels like. Because triangles, I think, are more like our stuff. I feel like we don't have saucers. As far as all the research I've ever done, it seems like it's always a triangle that we have that we reverse engineered. So I thought that was fascinating. I want to go over a couple. So go on.
What about the cigar shapes? You're saying those are ours?
Well, I don't know. I just think 116 triangle sightings suggest more of earthly origin than not. But I'm not saying triangle sightings are all earthly origin. That's just a vibe I got from reading the stories, and each one was different. And a lot of them just didn't, like, there was near a military base, or it wasn't. It didn't feel alien. It felt more U.S. government-y.
There's a lot of military bases in New Mexico. True.
Right,
Okay.
right, which probably attracts UFOs, but we also have reverse engineered craft. That's where Kirkland Air Force Base is and everything. So I went through a couple of fun little stories. Some are literally 2 lines, but this is the first one I found. This one was on 12/27/2020, so relatively recently. And the location was outside of the town called Truth or Consequences. That's the real
What?
name of a town in New
What's
Mexico.
the name of a town?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
Yeah,
What?
it's named after a TV host in a long time ago in the 40s or some shit for NBC of that show. Truth or Consequences was the name of the show. Made a bet. He was like, if any town out there names their town Truth and Consequences, I'll come and broadcast there. And they named it Truth and Consequences. And
What?
he showed up. Yeah, really
Oh my
random thought.
God. I
You
want to
ready for
go
ano-
there.
You ready
I
for
wanna go
another
there.
tangent? I'm not even going to get to the UFO story yet. For some reason, when I was researching Truth and Consequences, it was like, here's other weird names of towns. And my favorite one, which you guys are going to love, was called Dildo.
Where is Dildo?
Dildo is an island in Newfoundland. It's located on the southeastern Dildo arm of Trinity Bay, about 60 clicks west of St. John's. South Dildo is a neighboring community of 250 residents. If you think
Did
it's
you
a
say
joke,
dildo arm?
it looks like a dildo, this place. But apparently it
Just
just
a
means
couple
like
clicks from St. John, because if that's not big enough, go to Dildo Island.
Yeah.
dildo. Apparently that just means like something jutting out. It has no sexual like meaning to it at all, but whatever. So, anyways, I'm going to talk about UFOs, I promise.
Okay,
So,
all right. That was
this story
interesting.
is more about the name of those towns than the actual story. I'll read this to you. It's literally 1 line. This is the sighting. Cigar-shaped object that changed shape to a fish-like object, and others appear to have landing legs. I saw an object hovering in the sky to the south while we were heading east on I-40 in New Mexico that was shaped like a cigar, then it appeared to look like a fish, and then changed shape again with something hanging off one end of it. Then it went back to the cigar shape.
Was it a
That's just-
dildo?
It was just
That's-
like a double-ended
That's weird
dildo.
though that it can kind of it has shape shifting qualities.
Wait, I have
Or
a
these guys were
question.
just tripping balls.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
There's no name associated with this.
Is
Yeah.
that truth or is it consequence? Ah!
I think that was truth. So that was just one weird one. Here's a weird encounter that I'm going to read to you that I thought was really interesting in Albuquerque, since that was in the flight path of the UFO reported. I tried to look for stuff that was around the area. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of recent stories, honestly. I didn't go into them because they're very meh. This one was really interesting. This happened in 1984, and this guy didn't report it until about 2013, but it's super bizarre. The gist of it is, in 1984, around 7:30, he was going to a parent-teacher conference in Alvarado Grade School in the North Valley of Albuquerque when he experienced something very, very odd. As he was walking through the parking lot, he was just walking through, and he saw the classrooms in front of him, and then he looked, and there was just no sound at all, and there was just this 16-foot UFO hanging in the air. It was metallic, with lights in the bottom of blue, yellow, red, green, and purple. And this guy could not believe what he was seeing. He was like, what the fuck is that? And then it suddenly disappeared. And he was like, where did it go? Where did it go? I don't know what happened to it. And he kept walking. And then all of a sudden it was above him, right above him. So it was like following him, and it wasn't like always there. It was definitely interdimensional. And this is the weirdest part about it. So he starts to like kind of walk towards the class. He's a little confused. And then suddenly a guy comes out of his daughter's classroom walking very fast towards him, just very fast, right towards him. And he's like, oh, and he's like, he just figured this guy got done with his parent-teacher conference, found out his kid was amazing or terrible. And he didn't know, and he's like, dude, this guy had sunglasses on too, very Men in Black, and a black suit, white shirt, and a thin black tie, very Men in Black.
Very
coming
Men
out
in
of coming out of his kid's classroom. And the guy was like, you see, and he goes, are you seeing this, buddy? Are you seeing this? And the guy kind of ignored him. Was like, what are you talking about? I don't see anything. With the metal thing hanging right above me. And the guy's like, I don't see anything. I don't see anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And then what happened was the guy had missing time. Then suddenly he just had hours missing. He doesn't remember what happened, and he feels like months and months are actually missing from his mind.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
Whoa.
it escalates quick. It goes from like, what the fuck is that? Here's a guy, Men in Black, walking towards me fastly. He doesn't see the UFO. I don't remember anything. All of a sudden, months are gone in my life. It's like that's
He got
basically
dosed up.
something happened to this bad boy. He got finger banged while he was in a heightened
Well,
state.
do you guys think it was
Off his luck.
military? Do you think it was military? Or do you think it was alien? I mean,
I don't know. It's so strange that I don't know. I mean, it seems alien to me, but why would they hover over a school? And like, I don't know. It's like some of these hurt my brain because these feel authentic, these stories, when you read them. They're not written like someone's trying to make up a lie. This one is very bizarre. It's not even the most bizarre
There's a lot of
story I
high
have.
strangeness, though, right?
right?
Yeah,
Wait,
just strange.
right, and
Yeah.
no one was around. Like
No one was
nobody
around. There was no reports. There was no sound. He has no idea. There's no. That's why some of these cases are very frustrating. Can be very frightening because there's no conclusion. You just live the
Right.
rest of your life with like, I had this weird incident where a guy marched towards me aggressively while there was a 20-foot UFO above me. Like, what the fuck?
And
do you
then
do
I'm
with that?
missing time. I'd be freaked out. I mean, yeah, I would desperately want to know what happened in that missing time. That's crazy.
Yeah. The rest of my life, I'd be getting regressed, and I'd write a book. I would dedicate my life. I'd hit the UFO circuit. It'd be a whole thing. All right, so this is the last story I want to tell
sounds
you.
like you want that to happen.
I go just a little bit. I don't want to get abducted though. That really sucks. I talk a big game like, oh, okay, abduct me, Arcturians. I don't care. I really don't. You know, I want to see like a UFO from afar. I want to see aliens from afar, and then maybe get close. Like I do have a fantasy about like hugging an alien, like it's the movie from Steven Spielberg, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Like I do have weird fantasies about like communicating with aliens, but
Huh.
well,
right.
that's not news. All right, so this is the last one. This is Taos. This is the best one. And the reason why I got into this one was because recently Tom DeLonge posted a picture of an alien on Twitter, and all he wrote was real picture. So I looked it up, and it comes from a picture. Yeah, big
Truth
discount.
or consequence?
So Tom, and I looked up this picture quick. It's taken from the East Coast. I don't have the details in my head. When someone was walking through a park, like a wooded area, and snapped a picture, and it's fucking freaky. Like there's someone standing right there, and they didn't see him when they were walking. I don't know why they're saying it's a real picture. Maybe it was vetted and researched, and I don't know. But it's creepy. It just got me on a missing 401 kick. The reason why I'm bringing this all up is because this report I found had something like this. It was like a very tall looking, weird ass, like grayish kind of Eben type alien creature. And this is the story. So this story happened in 2019, not too long ago, in September, not March. Sorry, Melissa. And the name of the guy is Josh Brinkley. So you know he was devastatingly handsome and had an above average Johnson. And his hunting partner, Daniela Lucerio. Just Daniel. What did I write? I wrote like an Italian version of Daniel. I wrote Daniela Lucerio. It's just Daniel. The guy's name's Dan. He's Dan. All right. So these two big dick guys were out hunting in Cerro de la Oila. That's not even close. Mountain range. They were elk hunting. Elk hunting is good. If you're going to eat meat, which I don't eat much
you
of,
put a little
elk and
spin
bison.
on it, and I liked it. I really appreciated the little accent you put on it, and it kind of covered up the terrible pronunciation.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
no idea
This is-
what I
it's
was
good.
pronouncing. Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't haunt me as a child that I can't pronounce anything. It's cool. So,
Yeah.
so Josh, was out hunting. Big Dick Josh. They showed up in the morning, and this is where it gets weird as shit. He leaves his hunting partner up on a mountain ridge where they usually go. He walks down a normal place where they go hunting that's like away from him. So he's like, an hour away from him. He hiked away. And I'm going to read this verbatim because it's just too crazy and good. Around 9:30 a.m., after seeing no elk, I headed towards the small caldera on the peak of this mountain, which I know well. As I approached this caldera, I glanced to my left and saw two identical figures standing side by side, looking either at me or directly away from me. They stood on the other side of a small oak trees or scrub oak, so I could only see them from their waist up. Naturally, I thought I had run into a couple other hunters, but as I got closer to the edge of the caldera, I couldn't understand what I was looking at. They were about 35 yards from me, and I could see them well. Their heads seemed bigger than a human's, and they seemed taller than an average man. I stepped down a small ledge, taking my eyes off them for a couple seconds. When I looked back, they were still there, with black torsos and a silver cat eye shape in the middle of what would be their chests or backs. Their heads seemed to be framed in by two half moon shapes. The one on the right was all black. The left one was shiny white. I could see no eyes of any kind or facial features on either of them. Compared to the scrub oak, they seemed to be approximately 7 feet tall.
What?
So they're in the middle of nowhere. He just sees these two creatures in the middle of nowhere.
I know, but that's like the weirdest explanation of. I've never heard this. I've never heard anything that looks like this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what caught my eye.
Sounds like a helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're wearing a helmet, but why? Like one of them is it the same species in two different skin colors? So I repositioned on the other side of the bush, taking my eyes off of them for a few more seconds. When I looked back, they were gone. I was so close that I could have talked to them. I walked to my left, then all around the bushes between us and the field near us, but the beings were nowhere in sight. I'm a logical person, so I chalked it up to being the tallest, most identical alien spacesuit-looking super hikers I'd ever seen. Thought that was a little funny. Josh has a little bit of a little comedy in him, which makes sense since he's a Josh, funny guy. So needless to say, he shook it off and he went and found Daniel. He was like, Daniel. He's like, come on, Daniel. What was going on? I saw some
His
two
name's
hikers.
Dan. His name's
Oh, yeah,
Dan.
His name was Daniel. Yeah, it's Dan, not Daniela. So he went up to Dan. He's like, Dan, you hot shit. I saw some hikers. It was weird. He didn't tell him right away. Then later he was like, dude, I saw the weirdest thing you've ever seen. Daniel's like, whatever, man. Let's just go to bed. The next day, they get up and they get in their truck and they're just driving around, going to the next camp or the next location, and they see like basically a tent in the distance, like something huge, like a circus tent, and they can see the tip of it. Like they're like, what the fuck is a circus tent doing in the middle of nowhere? So they start driving towards it. And they get closer and closer, and it's hundreds and hundreds of feet wide. They can't quite see the bottom of it, so it's like, is it floating? Is it there? And there should be nothing out there. They think it's all. They can't. They have no explanation. They're like, this has to be some sort of human facility. There's no way. They weren't thinking alien right away, even with the incident the other day. But as they got closer and closer and closer, boom! Suddenly it just disappears, like right in front of them. As they get like a couple hundred yards in front of it, they stop the car, they freak the fuck out, and they get the hell out of there. This is the longest. That's the end of the story. There's nothing great to that story other than that. But there's a long posting from this guy. They reported it to the police. He went in and gave a statement for it. His other friend did too. It's really interesting if you read this. These are the type of cases that I don't know, man. Like it's so bizarre. It doesn't seem like someone made it up because it's like either a bad story or it's real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So wait, I have questions. So it looked like a circus tent. I mean, it looked human? Like it looked like a tent that was floating in the air? Or was that his explanation of like a craft?
As we got closer, we estimated this tent to be at least 50 feet tall and between 150 to 250 feet long. That's all they described
I'm
as.
picturing,
hey, look, it's
like,
an alien ship. That's what they... No, they didn't say that, actually. We didn't say that. They made a point of that. They couldn't see... There was a black point on top of it. It was in a field, but they were never able to see the bottom of it. And when they came around, when they really got close to it, before they could see the bottom of it, it just disappeared. But it was that's all it is. It's just, that was it. That was the whole story. Fucking weird ass shit going on in the mountains near Taos.
It sounds like it could be saucer shaped though, right? If you think of like a circus tent, it's round, but it has like a
That's
peak
true.
on top of it.
Maybe. But the reason why this story was interesting is because, like, what were those tall things? Is that the things that people are seeing in missing 411 cases? Like, why was a picture taken in one when they're invisible? It just unnerved me because what are they doing out in the forest? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, I want to see that photo too.
I'll post a photo. It's just like, what? Because these things are happening. They're out in the middle of the woods. Like, people are reporting invisible predators, aliens, all this shit, like in the middle of nowhere. Like, what are they doing out there? It hurts my brain, and I don't know if we'll ever know. There's also a missing hiker in Colorado right now that kind of sparked all this for me. It really bothered me. It's in Ned, and it's a young man who, I think his name's Josh too. There's another connection to all this.
Uh-oh, you better watch
Josh
out.
Hall. No, it kind of struck me. There's too many Joshes in these weird stories. And this guy went missing. It's all the same missing 411 stuff. Like a storm came in right after he went missing. They never found his body. He was an avid hiker. His dog appeared 9 days later, like 10 miles from where he went missing, and the dog was fine. The dog was lost weight but had no frostbite. Should have died. It should have been in extreme temperatures, and everything was fine. And they'd have no idea. They have no idea what happened to him. And I just, these are the stories that creep me out a little bit. But whatever. I'll still go hike by myself. What are the odds, right?
What are the odds? Okay,
I'm sure
we're
you'll be fine.
announcing on this podcast that you're hiking by yourself.
Yeah.
Actually,
Still haven't heard back from Josh. I'm sure everything's fine though.
I'm sure everything's fine. I'm sure the aliens haven't picked up our frequency. Well, I mean, this is kind of a hodgepodge of weird stuff, given the onslaught of the American Airlines situation with the pilots. But I think the bigger story is, I think it's like our constant story, which is like, what is going on out there? And I think that the American Airlines pilot story is, I think Matt, you mentioned this. This is like the first time where it happened and it got posted online right away. Usually this stuff is you have to dig, the guy in Australia, you still can't get the actual recording. Somebody has it, but you can't quite get it. But we literally got the recording the next day. And it was posted, and the FBI is investigating it. So this
point.
is a completely different time of, okay, there's something out there, and we're going to talk about it. It's going to be out in the open. And so whether the fact that they saw it over Clayton, New Mexico is significant, I don't know. I think, Josh was really looking for the fact that, like, there's a bunch of weird stuff that happens in New Mexico, and there's definitely a lot of talks of, like, weird portals and weird stuff that happens. But I think maybe it's, I think this story is just bringing to light that maybe, like in the Scientific American article, that this is a golden age. This is the time where whatever is happening, we are either accepting it and we're moving forward to the next step. So I don't know if that's disclosure, but it's sort of exciting to see the news picking up what's happening out there.
It feels like it's accelerating.
Sure is. What a time to be alive.
Hell yeah.
What a time to be alive. Just don't get yourself stuck in some situation where they might suck you up in a ship.
Yeah.
Avoid that.
You don't want to be sucked off in a ship, let me tell you. Out of. What? What do we say? What do you say? What are we talking about?
Wait, that's something different. I think that's something different.
Oh, okay.
All right, everybody, have a good night. Be careful when you're flying, and not because of COVID, but because you might be victim to a UFO situation.
Goodbye.